right, Bruce, say hello. This is Evil Dead 2, guys. Flashback. You bastards!
Haven't I been doing this somewhere before? Where?
I think Bruce Campbell's a great guy. You know, I think he's a really fantastic actor. He totally delivers every time he does something, and he's just a really good person. You know, very generous, very, very sweet, and really, really, really funny.
I've had the opportunity to work with Bruce Campbell over the years on other projects as well. That was the first time I'd worked with him on Evil Dead 2. Sam always said that the hero had to be punished. You know, he had to go through hell. Kind of like Die Hard, you know, what makes it great is he gets the crap kicked out of him through the whole movie.
Bruce was game for anything that Sam could throw at him, and Sam threw everything at him he could. As they were growing up together, I don't know if maybe Bruce dated somebody that Sam liked, but Sam has had it out for him creatively in a very mischievous way.
Got it?
Any opportunity to torture Bruce, Sam would take within a second.
Okay, now attack Bruce wildly. And beat him once. And go for it again. Higher. Hold it, Dave. Leave it there for a while.
Sam would always like call him, you know, you big baby, and you know, and yeah, you can't take it. Oh, you're too hot, huh?
Bruce is an inspiring guy to work with because you're watching him get annihilated through any amount of physical and mental breakdowns, and you know, you feel like you want to gripe about something. You know, he's Sergeant Rock who's taking bullets in his face. You know, you go, well, I guess because I got a hangnail, I probably should shut up. So
the stunt double was not used very much. John Casino was my stunt guy, very good stunt guy, who doubled me for about 15 years on Briscoe County Jr., stuff like that. And he would do things like a stair fall. So I'm like, nah, it's probably not a good idea to go head first on that. I think I'm going to let John do that. And I did most of everything else in the movie.
I remember shooting the scene in the kitchen where Bruce is breaking the dishes over his head and the evil hand and flips himself. And it was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen.
And he'd do it over and over again, and we're like going, he's going to get hurt, you know, and he just enjoyed it. I mean, he had a great time doing it.
He was definitely tortured. He was incredibly disciplined, though. He would be up every morning. He pumped iron before the shoot because he kept himself in impeccable shape. He was a Puritan. He had a Spartan diet, drank a lot of water. Of course, he looked like $1 million. And he was a ham. He was just a ham. And he was good to work off of. He had a lot of energy.
Now!
I think Sam tormented Ted almost a little bit more. I mean, literally, it's like, okay, you're my little brother, you're gonna be in this movie, so you're just gonna do whatever I say.
when Evil Dead 2 came out, I was definitely aware of all of the demands that were required of me to be in the suit, to be hung by a harness, to be blind. And I didn't care because I was 20. And when you're 20, you know, you can have people throw golf balls at your face, you know, from a driving range, and it really doesn't matter. You'll be happy to have that happen to you.
And action.
That thing in the cellar is not my mother.
Sam was looking for what he called a southern wildcat, and I'm from the South. And so this agent said, "Would you like to read?" I said, "Sure." Sam read me for the part, and he said, "Great, I love you." So I said, "Well, while I'm here, can I read for the lead?" And he said, "No, I really like you for this part. I think you're perfect." I said, "Come on, I'm here. Let me read." So he gave me the sides for Annie, and I read, and he went, I like that. And then he said, "I want to hear you scream." I said, "Okay." And I just let it rip.
I don't know that Sarah knew what she was getting into. I don't know that anybody knew what they were getting into. But she was picked because she had a great scream, very piercing scream, and she seemed game.
I liked the fact that she was a professional woman. You know, in a horror movie, that's a rare commodity. And the way I conceptualized her is I thought of her as like, in some ways, the ultimate Girl Scout, because she was that. But Sort of the interior track I had was that I was the son my father never had. And so I really had to come through for him. And that's how I played it. My oldest daughter then was just 18 months old. And my husband was a professor, so they could come and be with me during the shoot. It was in the summertime, and it was 9 weeks.
She had young children at the time. I had young children, and what was funny to watch was the difference of how we dealt with our kids making a movie like that. Because what I told my daughter Rebecca, who was young at the time, was I said, "Look, Ted's in a big pig suit, and here comes Ted. Look, see the pig suit." Sarah Berry didn't really lay the groundwork for her kids. Her kids saw Ted Raimi and freaked out. Ah! They had to remove the two from each other. You know, it was just a disaster.
Sarah had some like really emotional horror movie scenes. So she was really sweet to work with. And I think she spent a lot of her time like preparing for this next big moment where she had to emote in some way.
And now!
She'd had some pretty severe knee injuries from her dancing career. And I remember just feeling so horrible for her because you could see this big scars on her legs. And she had to drag my big, fat, heavy butt all the way across that cabin with the dagger sticking out of my chest.
I remember 17 takes of that. And he was a heavy guy.
And at the time, I weighed over 200 pounds.
I had worked myself up into such a place. And then with each take, got more and more and more, you know, intense for me. But it was exhausting.
I felt so bad for her, but very good actress, fun to work with, very giving.
And action! Bobby Joe! Bobby Joe!
Bobby Joe! Bobby Joe! Where are you, girl?
Danny Hicks has this blue-collar vibe like very few actors can pull off.
That's right.
In Evil Dead 2, he's so much fun to watch.
I loved playing Jake in Evil Dead 2, just because it just gave me a chance. Well, first of all, it was my first feature film, and I got to be incredibly unattractive, which is always fun to ugly up. Part of the reason I got the role is when I auditioned for it, I remember Sam Raimi looking at me and saying, "I can't believe it, an actor without an ego," you know, because I looked so awful. I'd gotten up that morning and went outside and literally combed my hair with grease from the engine compartment.
He came into the audition and he was okay, but then he goes, "Well, do you want to see without my teeth?" And we were like, "What?" He just went, "Foomp." He pulled out a whole bridge at the front of his teeth and 4 teeth just disappeared. We were like, "That's perfect." You know, and so he basically got the part on the spot. And Danny's just one of these great, bigger-than-life characters who's got crazy near-death stories.
Action!
The thing that I came closest to not surviving is my death scene when Henrietta chews me up down in the cellar, because they pumped 55 gallons of fake blood in something like 3.5 seconds, and I was hanging upside down from a trapeze. And on the first take, the hose wasn't positioned, and instead of squirting out the door, it hit the door and came right back in my face. So within 3.5 seconds, I had 55 gallons of blood forced up my nose. So I almost choked to death. And then, of course, we had to do it again.
His performance is so powerful in that movie. It's really something to see. I mean, I know I sound like I'm talking about some Academy Award guy, but if there was an Academy Award, you know, for crazy hillbillies, he'd be the winner, hands down.
I mean, I don't know how much movie acting he had done, but he was really an old pro. He was in character, he was ready for every shot, he was inventive with what he wanted to do, you know, he really worked every shot. He was fabulous to work with.
Danny and I became buddies on the movie. I haven't seen him in a long time, wonder what he's doing. But we became friends on the movie. And we had our no shortage of brews together and chatted together and really got a sense of what this was going to be about. So he was a really, really cool guy.
Danny Hicks had a great time because he's just kind of that kind of guy. He's like, sure beats working for a living, you know?
doing a feature film is what I decided that's what I want to do. I want to do feature films. I don't want to do anything else. And that's because of the whole experience with Evil Dead 2.
And he's just stayed a good friend, and he's been in just about every one of our movies ever since.
358, take one. And Cassie, hands up. Start. And action.
Bobby Joe was indeed one of the first characters I played. It was actually the first movie that I've done, and pretty much the only feature film I've ever done. I had just started working with a theatrical agent who submitted me for this, and I thought, a horror film? I know, you know, Jamie Lee Curtis started her career there. I'm like, well, that would be great. Thinking I wasn't going to get it.
Cassie had to be, she had to eat the eyeball fly ball. You know, I mean, she got her same introduction to Sam Raimi. Like, you want me to do what?
Cassie, I flew to North Carolina with, I think. I think we were both living in LA, both got the job, and I think we were kindred spirits in a way, both going, what is this? What are we getting ourselves into here? What do you think this is all about? What is this movie? It reads kind of weird. Have you read the script? Have you read the script? So we had a long chat on the way there, and we spent some time together. She was really sweet, and I could tell she was driven. She seemed to be a driven actress and somebody who knew where she was going in her career.
I knew that this was going to be a really wonderful opportunity for me to really have the whole movie experience. I love to be on the set, try to learn stuff. So back when the house became possessed and everybody was laughing, I said, I'll lay behind the sofa and move the cushions. And so I did that.
Cassie and I were sort of, you know, obviously cast to sort of spar with each other in the movie. And I tried very much to stay as much in character as I could on the set. And so we kind of kept our distance from each other on the set. And she was much lighter. She was very bubbly and light and kind of true to the character in that way.
Just a true sweetheart. And she probably helped me with the accent a little bit because she's a Texas girl.
But I remember thinking, it says I have to chew tobacco. I'm like, really? Okay. So what they did is they put a brownie. So that when you spit, it still had that brown, icky look.
She's just a kind of a good girl. She didn't really fit in that whole environment. I think she was ready for soap operas by the time we were done. She went literally from Evil Dead 2 to One Life to Live. I mean, what a crazy transition.
And I've been working ever since, so thank you.
I had not seen the first Evil Dead, so I wasn't aware of what Evil Dead 2 was all about. So the thing for me about this movie was the audition. Because when you go to an audition as an actor, you don't get the entire script. You get the sides, you get a couple of pages. And there was a scene, I think, at the cabin. And then he turns into a Kandarian demon. And I had not ever experienced that before. Okay, let's go back to our Stanislavski training here a little bit. Go back to our sense memory here, Kandarian demon. And I had to figure out what the hell to do with this at this audition. All I remember is that I think, to this day, I think I recall making the ugliest face in the history of time, the most demonic face I've ever made in my life, and just turned into the demon. And just, I don't know, from when I was a kid, I had eyebrows that could go up higher than Nicholson's. When I finally got the call from the agent, I was like, what the hell did you do? They want to see you again for the demon role or something like that. When I met the guys who actually did the makeup for it, they said, basically, dude, that was pretty cool. We're going to model Evil Ed's makeup after that guy that you had become in the audition.
What I remember the most about Rick is he was a very astute businessman. And he said to me after the shoot was over, Sarah, you should take every dime you've made on this film, and it wasn't a lot, but take every dime and hire a PR person and just blitz yourself with PR. He was so smart. So I remember him being very canny in that way.
Oh, he was great. And he's been on like the Home Shopping Network ever since, man. That guy's everywhere. I don't know. And Sarah Berry. Oh, all those people are awesome. I mean, really, it's just like, it was just really a cool time. Terrific actors, a lot of fun.
And so that was our motley crew. They were pretty good troopers.
If I'm not mistaken, there was a little rider in the contract that my agent was trying to figure out. And it said something to the effect of, if you fall, break your neck, lose an eye, or sever an arm, you're on your own. It turned out to be eventful, yes, in a lot of ways.
We actually beat each other up pretty good in that show. Ted broke my nose. He had to reach up and grab my face, and he misjudged it by about 3 inches. So when he reached up to grab me, snap went the nose. When I attacked Bruce Campbell, I knocked him down and then hit him with both of my fists across his face, and I slipped and dropped down about 1 inch. I knocked all of his front teeth loose. But they actually ended up using that tape. It looked real, because it was.
Everybody just wanted to do the best that they could, but we were young and green, and Sam was very patient with us.
It also was like really being in the trenches. I mean, you had to act almost like being in warfare. And so I felt like I learned so much in the process. I sort of felt like if I could do that film, I could do any film.
You did it, kid.